Okay, this is the last part of this part of the trig videos where I'm going to actually do a real life problem. So this is fun. This is where I want you guys to be at when you're doing this. So I have a population of animals oscillates annually. So oscillates means it goes up and down annually from a low of 1,300 animals on January 1st to a high of 22 animals on July 1st, back down to a low the following January. Assume that the population is well approximated by a sine or a cosine function. So it says find the formula for the population P as a function of T. Let T represent the number of months after January 1st. Okay, so that's important. That means that time equals 0 is January 1st. So we're going to do a nice graph. And since it's our sketch, we can make it whatever. So we're going to graph 1 year of what's happening with these poor animals. So let me go on. I'm trying to make this look pretty, so I already angled it. So let's do this. Sound effect. Okay, so here's my population and the number of animals, and here is my time in months, because that's what they're talking about. So the first thing I want you to do is say, okay, 0 is going to be January 1st, because if you do it that way, there's no shift. And then you're going to go to July 1st, and then you're going to go back to January 1st. Okay, so we're just going to do like one entire year of this. And because it's our graph, we can put crap wherever we want to. So this is 1,300 here, well, within reason. And this one is going to be 2,200. So you don't need to show a break in the graph because there's no grid, but we can this is our sketch. Now we get to graph what the animals are doing. So there's a low here on January 1st, a high of 2,200 in July, and a low in January. So this is my curve. I'm going to try to make it pretty. Let's see how good I do. There is a picture of this. It's not perfect, but not bad. Okay. Now they want us to come up with a formula for this, or a pattern, if you will. So I'm going to write looks like, and we've been doing a ton of these. So this should be you should be used to this. Amplitude, period, frequency, midline. Okay. So first of all, it looks like the middle is in here somewhere. So I'm going to do this. So I see my graph does not start in the middle. It starts low. So this looks like negative cosine. Then we always go to my midline, the high, 2,200, plus the low of 1,300, divided by 2 is going to give us our midline because we need to know. And this kind of takes the guesswork out of it. So when I do that, 2,200 plus 1,300 divided by 2 is y equals 1,750. So that's your average. So right here, this is 1,750. This is y equals 1,750. So pretty. Now the amplitude is our high minus my midline. So I'm going to do 2,200 minus 1,750. This will give us our amplitude right off the bat, which is going to be 450. Now, you could do high minus your midline or midline minus your low. You're still going to get 450 either way because you're 450 from the average. Because my period, this is a graph, I look at it. Now, I get it's 1 year, but we're talking the time is in months. So your period is going to be 12 months, which equals 2 pi over my frequency. When I solve for my frequency, I get pi over 6. So we have this beautiful formula of this. My population is going to be negative 450 because I have to have the negative there, cosine pi over 6t, and this is in months, plus 1750. Isn't that cool? We just came out with a pattern for what those animals are doing, okay? By doing that last line, I just crossed off the question, so I guess I won't box that. Okay, the next thing it says, can you please tell me, it doesn't say please, but I'm saying please, what's the possible animal population on May 15th? Now you got to remember, January 1st is 0. So if you need to do this, all right, so 1 is going to be February 1st, 2 is going to be March 1st, 3 is going to be April 1st, 4 is going to be May 1st, 5 is going to be June 1st. So if I want to know May 15th is going to be in between that. So we're going to call it 4.5, and that's going to go right here in the T spot. and make sure you're in radians. So the population is going to be negative 450 cosine pi over 6 times 4.5 plus 1750. And when I put it in my calculator, just like that, making sure I'm in radians, you're going to get 2068.2, I think, but you can either leave it that or you can round it up. It doesn't matter. But that's my population in, was it May 15th? Okay. Well, that was fun. Now let's do the last part. The last part says we want to know in what dates will the animal population be halfway between the max and min? Well, that's my midline. So aren't we glad we did that earlier? That makes me so happy. So I know my midline is y equals 1750. So I'm going to put the 1750 right here in the P spot. So I got 1750 equals negative 450 cosine pi over 6t plus 1750. Now, when you solve this one's kind of fun because look what happens. When I do start doing my normal math, when I subtract 1750, look what happens over here. I get a 0. That's cool. So I got 0 equals negative 450 cosine pi over 6t. And then the negative 450 is hooked to the cosine by multiplication. So when I divide both sides by negative 450, 0 divided by negative 450 is 0. Well, that's also cool. Okay, so I have 0 equals the cosine of pi over 6t. Then, because I'm solving for t, which in this case is months, I'm going to do inverse cosine on both sides to get it out of there. That's the only way to undo that after all that normal math. So I have the inverse cosine of 0 equals pi over 6t. And thank goodness we learned that table that I know that 90 degrees, the angle 90 degrees, or pi over 2 is when my cosine is 0. So I'm going to put that in that spot. And then when I solve for t, I can either divide both sides by pi over 6, but since we're in pre-calc, we know that we can multiply by the reciprocal. And when I do, look what happens. 6 over 2 is 3. That's fun. So the first time this happens, we already looked at this, is that 3 is April 1st. We already did that. So we know the first time this happens is April 1st. Okay, so I'm going to come back up here, and that's how we figure out this one right here. So this first time that it hits the midline is right here. This is April 1st. The second time it hits the midline is after July. So what you're going to do is actually say 12 minus 3, because you got to figure out what that is. And when you do, you get 9. And 9 would stand for, in this case, October 1st. So that's cool. Not only, all right, so I just want you to take a look at this. So there's 2 answers. You got 3, and you'll have 9 and April 1st and October 1st. So let's start from the beginning and look at this. We took a situation of animals. We drew a sketch of the graph, colorful, I might add. We then did and found a pattern or a formula for this of our population right here. We were able to estimate a population on May 15th by plugging it in right here. And then we were able to figure out when is it going to be halfway by just putting our equation equal to 1750, and we can figure out on both those days that's when the population is going to be 1750. So I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. So see you in class.